Welcome to the Durty 20 podcast. I'm Cameron. If you don't know who I am, that is I. And we talk about D&D here. We get into the nitty gritty. We like talking about things and a bit too much, a bit too much, thinking about it a bit too hard. But we love it because we are, I'm assuming, Dungeon Masters. But anyway, so yeah, podcast for Dungeon Masters and players-ish. Is it for players? I don't know. If there's any players watching that are only players, that'd be really interesting to know. But I was gone for a while. I was learning how to. Oh God, a lot. There's a lot of followers and things keep popping up out of nowhere, and people keep talking to me, wanting to work with me and things like that. And that is confusing because it's brand new. I don't like this angle. Hold on a minute, ladies and gentlemen. I don't like this angle. There we go. So it's been a case of running around trying to figure out how to get microphones to work and lights and cameras and get them to fucking uploading. All this talk about like how do I put out, like what content do people want to see? Why are people watching me? I don't know. It's all been very, very overwhelming. The podcast I plan on putting it out on Monday, every Monday. Oh, man, this just nothing goes well. Probably 6 o'clock GMT time. Which my time, which I think most of you are from America, which is still very interesting that most of the people I think that watch me are from America. But whether or not most of the people who watch this podcast, let me know where you're from, and let me know if you watch the podcast, because that'd be really interesting. Anyway, so the podcast is going to be talking about Dungeons and Dragons, talking about all that crap, and thinking too much and hard about it, because that's what we do. Well, that's what we do here, but also that's what we do as Dungeon Masters and potentially players. Nope, I know players do this as well. They think a lot about their characters and such. But I got asked a question. On how do you do boss battles? Or how do you make the battle like super climactic? And I didn't have a fucking answer. I was like, I actually very rarely, I've not done a lot of boss battles in my time playing D&D. I did, the first campaign I ran was Curse of Strahd, and that ran for 2 years, I think. And obviously, it's like level 1 to 10, I think is the what they say it is. And we didn't make it. We made it to like level 5 or 6 before everybody died. And then there was a way to save the campaign. We could have done something about it. I also killed them. Did I kill them? Well, I didn't help them not die. I rolled. There's the whole one of those things where like let's explain it. There was a hole in the mountain, often called the cave, and the players wanted to roll a boulder down and like plug the hole. Right. There was goblins inside with some prisoners. So they were like, right, we'll roll the boulder down, plug the hole, and then let them out one by one and kill them. I actually don't know what their plan was. I can't remember. But it was plug the hole. But I was listening to them going, this is stupid. This isn't going to work. Like the mountain's like this, and the hole is like in the mountain. So the boulder's going to roll down, miss that bit, or miss it, and then keep rolling down the hill. And I was like, all right, this is a silly plan, but let them do it. Which is the wrong thing to do. So they did it. It rolled, hit the. I think it was my first video on TikTok. It rolled down, hit. Sorry, go back to the thing. They went in. They were like, "Hello, stupid, smelly goblins, come get us." Then they ran outside. Then they pushed the boulder. The boulder fell down, killed some of the goblins, and then just rolled down. And there's like fucking 50, 100 goblins in this cave. And then they were like, I was like, "I told you what it was like," and they were like, "Yeah, but we misunderstood you." And I was like, "Hey, I told you what it was like." And they were like, "Oh, shit." And I was like, huh. And then it was okay. And then they died because there was 100 goblins. And they wouldn't run. So, silly them. That's what I thought. They died. And then and then I was like, that's it, they're dead. And then the next session, we continued the game, and they were like locked up and stuff. But this was after we declared them dead, so then it felt like resurrecting something that was already dead. We couldn't meet once a week anymore, and the whole thing was just kind of like, all right, this is it. This is the tragic end of the Curse of Strahd campaign. Like it was an ending. You all died tragically up a hill, and then maybe we can return a couple years later. There was, because they made an impact on the world. You know, was it Bolivia or something like that. They fucked with things in the village, and they fucked with stuff in multiple villages, and got into mischief and did change the landscape. So we could go back there, and we left it open, but they're dead. And then we couldn't meet weekly, as I said. We could meet sometimes. So then one of my friends was in the process of buying one of the players on the game, because he's back now. His name is Bob. He plays a dwarf in the new campaign, which will be out. Oh, I should have probably talked about that. I get distracted. So he was buying a house. So he was like working like absolute madman trying to buy a house, because the housing market is absolutely fucking fucked. So for the next 2 years after that was like 4 or 5 years ago. So for 2 years after that, we played basically one shots, like just every fucking month or something when we could get together. And I played with a broad range of people. So I had the skill from Curse of Strahd, but then I was playing it and didn't really like it. Where am I going with this? Oh yeah, I didn't really like it. I didn't like 5e. I was falling out of 5e because shit got really complicated by the time I got to level 6, and I was like, I don't really like this. So then I started picking up other systems, checking them out, and then playing one-shots. So then that was my exploration stage, right? That was my college years of D&D, where I just fucking had one-night stands with a bunch of people. So I played a bunch: Easy D6, ICRPG, Dungeon World, Dungeon Crawl Classics. I can't even, I don't even know what the books are. Can't even name them off the top of my head. So then I figured out I like really simple, rules light, do the fuck I want systems where things aren't crazy. So what I'm getting at, ladies and gentlemen, is I've rarely done boss fights, but I do think I know how they work, because I have done a few, and I think the few that I've done have gone really well. And the one I'm going to use as an example is the one I played like 2 weeks ago, because my girlfriend's sister comes up. She lives in another part of Scotland, so she comes up sometimes, and then she likes to play D&D, and we like playing D&D together. We've been so this campaign started as a one shot with her and her sister, and like my girlfriend, her sister, and me. Then my roommate got involved in session 2, and then it became like a 3-person campaign, and then people kind of have come in and left. But anyway, they were in jail. They put themselves in jail. Oh god, no, I can't go through this story. They put themselves in jail. If you want to hear the story, let me know. They put themselves in jail, and then they took over the jail and like ran the jail and became like prison leaders, and then escaped the jail, right? Basically. And they went back to the town where they had been arrested in the first place, because they were going back because they were cursed by a demon. And the person they met in jail, his name was Gavin, and he was part of the cult that they stopped from summoning. They stopped the summoning of a demon, and he was part of that cult. But he was in jail, so they didn't get in contact with him. So they're like, and then they stopped the summoning and then got cursed. Then went to jail, and then they met him, and now they're going back to find him because he escaped as well, because they need to break the curse. And when they get there, the whole city is under siege by demons. That's not the correct words. It's being attacked by demons. So it's time to be heroes, right? Because they were in jail and they ran it, but you know, still heroes. So and then the end of the session, right? There was a boss fight. There was a really big demon that they had to fight, and that one went really well. Here's my notes for this podcast. So it's like sex, ladies and gentlemen. It's like sex. If the DM is the man and the players are the ladies, right? They want men. We want to just get to the business, right? We could, in theory, just completely bust our load immediately, right? Just like we have this really cool monster and we really want the players to fight it, and it's really cool. And we're like, oh, it can fucking fly, it can teleport, it can pick players up with telekinesis, it can do all this cool stuff. Right, so, but the players, hello, Happy. But the players want to be told a story, right? They want to get they pulled along. They want, they want the foreplay, the role play, and then the setting up of all the setting up the stakes and setting up all the monsters. They want to be emotionally invested. They want to feel safe, but also kind of scared and dangerous at the same time. I don't know if that fucking fits for everyone, but hey, and then you get to the bit of the boss fight, and then you have the huge boss fight, and then you have the climax, right? So it's like a whole thing, and all the parts are required, whereas us as DMs just want to get to the end and do the cool thing. I don't know if that analogy works for everybody, but it works for me. You've got the boss fight is the whole session. It's not just the boss fight. It's everything leading up to the boss fight. I would advise. But I don't know if I would, because the systems I play, the combat's much quicker than it is in 5e. So getting to the boss fight and then getting through the boss fight in one session is not that difficult. Like I saw a fucking comment somewhere that was like, 10 sessions. Like I want my fucking monsters to kill my players in 10 sessions. And I was like, 10 sessions? Man, I aim for 3. 10 sessions. That's it. Fucking hell. 10 rounds. And I'm like, I aim for 3 rounds. Not, 10 is so long. That's all session. Like playing combat, that's boring, right? We want variety in our games. So anyway. So I would advise, like the whole session is the climax, right? The whole session is the boss fight. You're trying to get to the climax. Stop it. You're trying to get to the climax and trying to like players, right? You're trying to bring them along to the. He's gonna fucking attack me now. Look at this. Look at this boy. But I'm filming a show. I am a professional. Lay down or clean yourself. So we're trying to get to the end. We're trying to take the players along the journey. Right. So the journey. How do you do the journey? You do the journey like every other session. Like I think the 5-room dungeon is a really good kind of idea of what you want to do. If you don't know what 5-room dungeon is, it's like 5 rooms that are like the guardian. Oh no. I don't know if 5-room dungeon is a puzzle or something. Combat, setback, climax, reward, conclusion. That's what it is. Just like that idea. What was really good to take from this, is I like the climax is not the last room. The climax is the second last room when everyone's got their energy. And they're the most high, right? But this is what I'm talking about, right? As DMs, our energy is not the same place, but we're not the ones being taken through a story and stuff. We are like, we know all of it. So our energy doesn't necessarily fluctuate through it, but players want to get pulled into a thing and then there's a peak and then they'll tire out. So they want to get pulled into the world and then they'll tire out. DMs kind of have it a little bit. I think warming up is a DM's a thing. But anyway. So the boss fight. You want to get... Jesus, I'm so all over the place. So you want to... See, it's a podcast. This is the podcast for you, everybody, if you're here. It's me rambling like an absolute lunatic. Right. So you want to get... The whole session is the climax. We're going to take the players through it. So what I had was they arrived at the town. They were fighting demons and saving lives on the street. They're fighting demons, saving lives in the street. Got into a bit of a tea-whiff. One of the players got confronted by a person whose brother she'd hung be in the prison. There was like a whole revolution thing. Like there was a revolution about to happen in the prison because they were leaders. And then I was like, they are going to hang this guy who's a guard before it was taken over. And I was like, you can stop it, which will not stop the revolution from happening. Like it won't quell the emotions everyone has. Or you can let it happen and it will. And they let it happen. So he's a guard. So I had her come to that, confront that while she was in the midst of saving civilians with the guard. Then he looked at her and realized who she was. And then he just punched her. And then there was a hole. That was resolved. That had to be resolved, sorry. So that was in the middle of the thing. So there's like, fuck, we just did all this work and there's lots of stuff, mistakes that we made and all that shit. All happening and culminating, and then you saved part of the town. They saved part of the town, sorry, after fighting actual demons, saving old people, saving children, dealing with the consequences of their actions, and you've kind of got this contained, like, whoo, we did it, that was hard. And then the big demon was summoned by Gavin. And they were like, oh, for fuck's sake. Right? They were just like, should we just go fight it? Like, fuck it. Let's just go fight it. What else are we going to do? Look at it. Let's go fight it. And then that was kind of like, the boss fight is now happening. So I used the boss fight as the setback kind of thing. But like I'm saying about like where it's like sex. I used all that build up to the boss fight. The boss fight wasn't just how do you make a boss fight cool. You have to lead them to it. Where I think it happens a lot in obviously 5e normal dungeon, where you kind of make your way through the dungeon and then you get to the boss fight at the end. Like the dungeon is the build up, and then I think a lot of DMs cut it and then do the combat. I don't actually know what they do, but I would assume that's what they do because 5e is fucking long. But anyway, so you gotta get to the end of the climax. Now we've reached I should have said this in the beginning. The most important thing I think is fucking with the status quo. No, Kirby, go away. You can't come in here happy as being a bitch. So, fuck with the status quo. Like, change it, right? Boss fight basically just means a big event, right? It's a big climactic thing. So, I think a good way to make it feel like it is important or is climactic is by, if they lose or fail, things change. So, this town that they've been spending 5 sessions in is being attacked by a demon because the cultists summoned it because they went to jail and weren't there to stop anything. So more consequences to their actions, which was a happy accident, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't do that on purpose. I just was like, you know what's cool? Fucking demons. Let's have a big demon fight. That's fun. And then they were like, oh, we were in jail. And I was like, of course you were. That's why this happened. So they were in the jail. So there's there's a couple of factions at play. There's the Baron who put them in jail. There's the Kage cult who are the demon people. And then there's the players. So it's a battle between the Baron and the players, right? No, so the Baron and the cult. The cult have now summoned a demon. So if they fail, the cult get the town, sort of, right? Or at least it's implied. They don't know what's going to happen, but if they die, the demon... Even that's my point of view. From their point of view, if they lose, the town dies. So I think that's what they would assume. And if they win, the town is saved. But then they also have to deal with the Baron anyway. So but then now they're out of jail. The town's been kind of destroyed by a big demon. The status quo of the whole thing is completely changed. A massive event has happened. And I think that's what lends itself to being climactic, is the fact that the players are in a situation that's irreparably going to change the town that they're in. And them. Because I think 2 players died. And then one got brought back to life. Which is a whole thing that I would love to explain. And I think I might. So, changing the status quo is like what your goal is with a boss fight. You want to kind of change the status quo depending on what it is. Because I can't think of many situations off the top of my head, but if you're building up to a boss, like I think a boss fight and a really hard bossy, like a really hard monster aren't quite the same thing. When I'm thinking boss fight, I'm thinking like, we've been building to this for a few sessions. So, it's just basically a big event, which means it takes a lot of, I think when I think of it this way, it takes a lot of pressure off of the actual fight itself. You don't need to have this bombastic fight that is close HP battles, people die and get brought back up, teamwork is had, people are lost, betrayal even. Like, you don't need that, because whether they fail or kill him really quickly, it doesn't matter. We've changed the whole landscape of the land, and that's kind of what I think your goal is with the boss fights. Big event. My players ended up, as I was saying, I was planning on them dying. Or, nope, I was planning on them killing the demon. But one of them wanted to make a deal with him. And I was like, oh, that's fucking silly. He's a demon here, kill everything. And then he was like, I'll do it anyway. And then I was like, actually, this is not a bad idea. So I was like, if you serve me, I will stop. And then I was like, if you serve me, I'll bring them back to life. Because 2 players had just died. One of my fucking players rolled 4 1s in a row. That's how he died in this fight. And it was absolutely ridiculous. And he changed dice. There wasn't one unlucky dice, he changed dice. Anyway, so he died. Another character died. Right. And then they rolled an insight check to see if he was telling the truth. And I said he was partially telling the truth. And the partial part was he'll only resurrect 1 of them, not 2 of them. But then this player will need to be part of the... He's made a deal with the devil, right? So who the fuck knows what's going to happen? Anyway, he takes the deal, I tell him he can only bring one person back to life by writing a note on my phone and just showing him. So he's sitting there, lots of tension at the table, and then he chooses. It's between two characters: the prison leader lady, who is like our, it's basically the fourth Hokage from Naruto. She can control plants. Well, she's poison ivy and the fourth Hokage. She can control plants with magic. And the Easy D6 system is basically just you tell me what you're trying to do. That's it. If it sounds like you can do it, we figure it out from there. She was a leader of the prison people, and she wanted vendetta on the back. She wasn't a full character. The start is a one shot, so she's just a kind of cool character she made. But my other player, most of these players are going to be in the game I play. So which I gotta get back to the players. Lady man, nope, no, Jesus, this is my brain. Welcome to my brain. So the other player is Cameron. He's in the game. I also have another podcast with him that we talk about games, which I will tell you guys about later. His character was Brian from the Church of Brian. This player creates very, very interesting NPCs. Nope, characters. I don't know if anyone knows this about players, but some of them can be good at making characters. All of his characters have been incredible every single time. Anyway, so he is Brian of the Church of Brian, and then he got some followers by converting them to his Church of Brian. He's also a goblin, he's a tiny little goblin preaching the fucking anyway. But in this game, you can call for miracles, and it's really hard to do. But you can just ask the god for a miracle once a session. So it was a choice between Carmen, the herbalist conjurer, and Brian of the Church of Brian. And then the other player who won't be in the game, he's just another roommate, he chose Brian. So for the lore, as he says. And I think it was the right decision. Because now Brian's come back, but he's been risen by a demon. But it's not his god, Brian. But he doesn't really know that. But the goblin, his name was Matthew, and he is fucking playing another goblin. So that was another reason that he rose him, because I was a goblin and he was a goblin. So of course I'll raise him from the dead. Demon leaves. Town has been saved, and then Brian's back to life, and everyone's like, "Wow, how the fuck are you back to life?" But only the goblin knows that happened. And then I was like, "You're pretty sure." to Cameron, to Brian, I was like, "You're pretty sure your god brought you back. There's a little doubt, but you're pretty sure your god brought you back." And he's like, "Holy shit, I've been brought back by XYZ." And then a couple of civilians were there, and they saw him the big demon was like the size of a building. It was Beast of Nurgle from Warhammer. It's like a big, massive, size of a house slug that shoots acid. Anyway, he was on top of him and got flung into a building. He's a tiny goblin, so he just got squished and red misted. Then he got brought back to life from red mist. So NPCs start running around being like, "Oh my fucking god, he's now the risen martyr. He's been risen. He's been risen." And they run around. So then he now has not just followers, he has devout followers. There's in this world, gods aren't just real. He talks to his god. He's like, "No, I speak to him every day. It's totally fine. He's real." But no one else hears it. So they're not sure, But then they just saw him be risen. But he has been risen by heresy, right? So there's that to deal with. So the whole thing was very cool. And then like I said, the cult, Gavin, who is their mate, comes out and is like, "Oh shit. Well, Carmen's died. I liked you as well, but we'd have to do this. This would have had to be done anyway." And the players were like, "What?" And then he draws a sword. A couple of cultists conjugate with him, and they point their swords at him. And then, so the players obviously stand up, draw their weapons, and some followers for the NPCs come out of the streets and start picking up weapons, and then they join the risen martyr, obviously. Some of the cultists join them. Then the Baron fucking pops up out of nowhere and then draws his weapon. He's like, "I didn't want you guys to die." He's not actually a bad guy. He's just in a bad situation dealing with a cult. Kind of situation. And then, situation. And then we end up with a Mexican standoff with the Church of Brian, and the cultists, the Cult of Kage, and the Baron and the guards standing on this the whole town's been fucked up, right? There's dust, everything's kind of red from all the fire, like New York. It was like fucking like 2 weeks ago, and the players are hurt. One of the players is dead. One's just been brought back, and boom, right? We've completely changed the landscape of what was just happening before. All I can do is tell you what I do, and hopefully you can pull something from it. That's what I did, and this is the kind of stuff that you'll like let happen. Like a whole load of stuff happened, but now one player's dead. One player did die, but then got brought back and is now risen by heresy. So that changed his story. But he thinks he's been risen back. One player doesn't know that, or does know that he's been brought back by heresy, not his actual god. So he's a risen martyr, but he's lying. But it's garnering a lot of power. So now he's got fucking followers. The Kage people were now friends, but not friends. The whole town's been fucked up and destroyed, but they did just save it, and the Baron's there to try and take back control. Like, the whole landscape's completely changed. So I didn't really have anything to do with the boss fight. As cool as the boss fight was, which I don't even know if I have time to get into the fucking boss fight. How long's it been? I feel like I've been talking for ages. I can't tell. But anyway, fucking hell, it's like sex, right? Don't be too quick to blow your load, ladies and gentlemen. Don't be too quick. Don't just be like, I got awesome stuff and I want it to happen now. It's a boss fight. No. The boss fight is everything that leads up to the boss fight. You want to serenade them all the way up there just to try and get this climax, because it's very difficult to get the climax. Right? This is was it an accident? A little bit. Like, a lot of what I did in that example was by chance. Like, a lot of it was luck. Like, the player rolled 4 ones in a row to die. 4 ones in a row to die, which helped me kind of, handle everything, because he died. So then he got brought back, and I was like, Risen Mars, so I can change the landscape even more. Everything's been fucking changed. So I think that's what you do. But this isn't easy. Much like sex again. It's to actually get the climax for the woman is fucking difficult. Like, it's not easy. It takes a whole load of stuff, and it's really difficult. But the more, also like sex, the more you do it with the same person, the stronger your relationship is, and the more you try, basically, the better you'll get at it to make those stars align to have a huge climactic boss fight. This analogy is working perfectly. I don't know. It's a perfect analogy. So, what I'm saying is, play more Dungeons & Dragons and you'll get better at it. But that's the idea. You're trying to build up to a really big moment, and nothing's bigger than everything's changed, whether or not the fight was awesome or the players live or die. Don't even know if you can hear that, but there's like a fucking event happening outside. It's like sports, like a kid's sports day outside, and they have everything. They got speakers, they got music, they got lady on the microphone calling the shots. I think right now it's a really close race. Anyway, so yeah, you got to change the whole landscape. It's just like sex. You get better at it the longer you do it. Right. Obviously, I didn't say this, but this, I guess, would be kind of clear. The stakes aren't their lives, or just their lives. The stakes are anything else in the world getting fucked up that isn't them. Like, the stakes were the town and the players. And then also, obviously, just the town and the faction of the balance of power in the town will be shifted either very much towards the cultists. So there's lots of stakes involved in it. That's a really good way to make it climactic. But I guess that would be a really good one to use for if your players are stupid powerful. Have stakes that aren't their players. But you should do it anyway, even if they are powerful. So, stakes that aren't the players' lives. Some of my notes are absolutely stupid. Oh, have lines. Actually, that is a good point. Have lines. Like, if you have a boss fight and the boss can talk, have lines. Like, write down some fucking cool stuff that the monster will say to the players during combat. Like, puny little human, and then slam him, Simple stuff like that. Like, roleplay in between rounds can just help a lot to make it feel like, oh shit, this is a dude and we're fucking fighting him and it's hard. But the other thing I definitely know I can't help with is 5e high level, because as I said before, I hated it so much. My philosophy in this D&D world of mine, in our hobby, is speed and excitement, right? But you can also slow down. Like, don't be like rushing through everything. You can slow down, take things slow. But the actual resolving of things, I would like to be pretty fast. As I said before, like nothing exciting is slow, and admin is not exciting. So like spend too much time doing math, spend too much time remembering what the stats of all the monsters do, and the players spending too much time figuring out what their abilities do and how to like combine them. I don't like it. My players don't like it too much. Some of my players do like it, but they're very okay with compromising some of that for speed. So if your players are like, I've seen a lot. If I've been asked questions, I have been asked questions, and I've seen it a lot where people are like, my players just kill the monster dead fast. How do I deal with that? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how to deal with it mechanically. I do know you can have a situation like I just said, like the stakes aren't whether the players win or lose. Like I kind of picture it like Batman and the Joker, where if it was a straight fight between the Batman and Joker, obviously the Joker loses. But that's not the point. The point is he set a bomb in the fucking boat or whatever in the movie, and then you got to blow up one of them and see what's happening. And oh dear, save the kids, right? That's what I would do for strong characters. But I just don't like strong characters. I don't understand the whole like, oh, I want my players to get to like level 20 because that'd be awesome. I'm like, I fucking hate. Like, do you like Superman? And they're like, no, I don't like Superman. Why? Because he's too powerful. I'm like, exactly. When the players get really strong, it becomes really difficult to tell stories with really powerful characters, let alone the mechanical burden that is placed on you as a DM to like, how do you challenge the players with all this stuff? Like I keep my players, like I said, I keep my players low, level 1 to 5 most. Even then, I think they're too strong at level 5. Like I want them to always feel like if you're ever fighting a bandit, they could be really strong, but their health is always pretty low, so there's always a chance they'll die. But anyway, getting a little off. That's a whole other debate. So, boss battles. That's what I think. Oh, if you made it all the way here, again, once again, hopefully this made some sense and there's some nuggets in there that you could take. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching, rather, or listening, or both. I will try and get this. If something you're interested in, let me know. If you want on like Spotify and stuff like that, I'll probably do it anyway. Got anything you want me to talk about? Any questions? Leave them down below. Thank you for listening. You guys are awesome. I can't believe I actually have patrons as well, which is absolutely fucking wild to me. These are them are these. I would read the names, but I don't. I'm not ready for that, but I should do that. But anyway, thank you for listening once again. Thank you for joining me on this amazing journey that I'm going through. Goodbye.